All aboard! Well, hello and welcome to this Hornby Railways R373 Evening Star restoration, and it was a downer deal, £30 eBay purchase that was sold as a runner. But as you can see, take everything on eBay with a pinch of salt. It runs, but only just, and it didn't actually run when I first got it, because the valve gear, the engine had been disassembled, and they'd incorrectly assembled it and damaged the valve gear, which I'll get onto in a bit. But here we are, here's our starting point. Cosmetically it's not too bad, it just needs a clean. There's some tape marks on the tender where they've taped it together because the clips have gone, but it holds on. I've not put it in yet, and I've finished the build, but I'll probably put some black tack on it to hold it together, and that should do the job just doozy. But anyway, off we go. And here we are, I'm listing the problems on it. On the valve gear, this square bit here wasn't put into its locating peg on the chassis, and the valve gear there had thrown over to the other side, so when it tried rolling it blocked up the actual mechanism and stopped it from revolving. Anyway, here I'm oiling all the connecting rods and all the pivot points and everything on the conrods and valve gears and all that jazz. Just putting small dots of oil on them. And there we go. Just touching it with a paintbrush and it'll flow into it through, oh shit, what's it called, capillary action. We'll take it in and go around to the other side and do these as well, and show you after how it comes off. It's, well, you work methodically, it's simple enough, but yeah, it'd be complicated I suppose if you were quartering it, but if you paid attention to where rods came off and everything, it's like any other one, just a tad more complex. I could do it eventually if I were quartering it and get it up and running, but apart from that little valve gear fault where they'd assembled it wrong and they bent one of them so it touched, so it didn't pass, so that locked it up as well. So I straightened one of them out so it weren't touching the rest of the gear, and let it revolve freely again. Really, it's understanding how mechanical things work and watching what they should be doing, having a good eye to see if anything's fouling, touching each other. Like there, the centre one of these three at the front, at the top, the rod was actually bent in and it was touching when it revolved, so it wouldn't allow it to fully revolve. But what I'm doing now is putting oil down the back of the wheels onto the axles. I could have really taken the base plates off, but I didn't really worry. And here I am taking the... well, I'm splitting the base from the actual body, because I want to wash the body. And there we have the black base plate. There it forms the bottom of the boiler, and it holds on the valve gear, etc. Where that square piece of metal is, it holds the valve gear in at that point. And here we have some marks on the tender, and I think it's some sort of tape they've used to hold it together. It doesn't look good, but a bit of IPA on a cotton bud, and it got rid of it. And there we go. That's a tad better, looking nicer. And both sides, cheered it up a bit. And that's what it's about, where cosmetics, tiny bits can make a big difference. And here I'm putting the body back onto the chassis. It's only one screw at the back here that holds the two together. And one's tightened, it holds the base back on. And here, this is the tender drive motor, and I'm just giving it a test run. I think I've oiled it here, and I'm going to be putting, I have put some grease on it, because when it were running at first it was just noisy, very, very noisy. And the Evening Star, really, the locomotive, for what they spent on it. It was the last locomotive, well, the last steam locomotive made for British Railways. And for what they spent on it, it got hardly any use at all before it was withdrawn. You were a crying shame, really. They still had a lot of development in the locomotive to be done, to see just what they could get out of steam locomotives. But alas, it didn't come to fruition. It was retired with very little use, and it now resides in the National Railway Museum at York. And I saw it a couple of months ago. I photographed it. In fact, if I'd have thought, I'd have put the photographs in the video, but never mind. And here I'm just dabbing a little bit of the grease off I've used. You don't need too much. Just enough to get rid of that dreaded squeal. And there we go, running again. And it's loads smoother. And here where we are is where we finished up, cosmetically, looking a lot better, a lot cleaner. No, this is where we started off, sorry. We'll be going on to where we finished up. any second. Yeah, it was down a deal and full of tape marks and that cosmetically, as you can see there on the tender, and full of dust and grime, and just generally loved, really, you can call it. And here we are, here's where we finished up, giving it a good wash and clean the tape marks off. As you can see, even just a washing makes a huge difference, but you have to make sure you only do the body, don't do any of the electronics. But there we go, looking a lot prettier for herself. And even at this point, I'd skimped on the restoration, and I hadn't stripped the motor at this point because I thought I'd have got away with it. We're just oiling it, but you know what that did? It's still not running quite right. So I ended up stripping the motor. What I'm doing here, first thing I tried was cleaning the wheels. I give the wheels a good cleaning with a glass fibre pen brush. And it still wasn't brilliant at running. It still wasn't doing it for me. But, hey ho. So, the tender motor was stripped out. I'd avoided doing it because I thought I'd have got away with it, but you know what that did? And here I'm taking the motor faceplate out, the springs and the carbon brushes. As you can see, the plate's coming off. And there we go. It reveals an absolutely filthy motor interior and commutator. And the brushes, why I didn't replace them. I thought they had plenty of meat on them. And it were just one at an angle, so I thought they'll wear down flat, but alas no. When I put it together again, after cleaning, it spat the carbon brushes. So I've got new brushes and springs. I'll put them in the morning, like. I got just enough running out of it to demo it for the video, so it'll get new ones in morning. But here I'm putting soluble water sol on the commutator with a fiberglass brush, and it runs 10 times better. Beautiful. Anyway, here we go. May I say, tatty pie, everyone. Tatty pie.